I'm only human, I'm not like you. I tell a lie, you tell the truth. I change my mind, you speak, you act, you keep your promises. He says he's with me, I know he'll always be a promise maker, promise keeper. He says he loves me, I know he'll always be a promise maker, promise keeper. I'm only human, I'm not like you. I tell a lie, you tell the truth. I change my mind, you speak, you act, you keep your promises. He says he's with me, I know he'll always be a promise maker, promise keeper. He says he loves me, I know he'll always be a promise maker, promise keeper. Dance, now feel the beat. Everybody rock, get on your feet. Dance, now feel the beat. Everybody rock, get on your feet. Dance, now feel the beat. Everybody rock, get on your feet. Dance, now feel the beat. Everybody rock, get on your feet. I say promise, you say maker, promise, maker, promise, maker. I say promise, you say keeper, promise, keeper, promise, keeper. I say promise, you say maker, promise, maker, promise, maker. I say promise, you say keeper, promise, keeper, promise, keeper. He says he's with me, I know he'll always be a promise maker, promise keeper. He says he loves me, I know he'll always be a promise maker, promise keeper. He says he's with me, I know he'll always be a promise maker, promise keeper. He says he loves me, I know he'll always be a promise maker, promise keeper.
Hey, Haley.
Hey,
Oh, is everything okay?
no, I'm really worried.
Oh, what's going on?
I have this teacher, she's really sick in the hospital, and I want to go pray for her, but I'm really nervous she's going to reject me.
Oh, it does take a lot of courage to tell people about God, doesn't it? And you just want to help her. You know, that reminds me of a story about in the Bible. It's in 2 Kings, and it's about, it's about a young girl who was taken from Israel and now works in the household of a great general named Naaman. And she knew of something that could really help her master. And she was just really, I can imagine, really nervous to tell someone really important like that about God. And that it could, you know, he had a terrible disease and it could make him feel better. Do you want to hear more about it?
Sure.
When you are young, it may be hard to believe that God is working in your life. But there was a young girl in the Bible who learned that this is true. The girl had been taken from her home in Israel to become a servant to the wife of Naaman. Naaman was a brave commander in the king's army who had a terrible skin disease called leprosy. The young girl heard the news that Naaman was sick and told Naaman's wife about a man in Israel named Elisha who could help. As soon as Naaman found out about Elisha, he asked the king for permission to go to Israel to see him. Not only did the king say he could go, but he gave Naaman horses and chariots for the journey. When Naaman arrived, he went straight to Elisha's house. Elisha sent Naaman a message through his servant that said, "Go and wash in the Jordan River 7 times. If Naaman did what Elisha had said, he would be healed immediately." At first, Naaman got really angry because Elisha didn't come out to see him in person. Naaman thought the least he could do would be to pray to his God and wave his hand over his skin. Naaman didn't want to listen to Elisha because he didn't understand how bathing in a river, especially 7 times, would make a difference. Naaman's servants convinced him to go down to the Jordan to do what he had been told. As soon as he washed himself 7 times, he was completely healed, just as Elisha had promised. Naaman was so happy that he went back to Elisha and said, "Now I know there is no God anywhere in the world like the one in Israel." The young servant girl may not have realized it, but God was working through her to help heal Naaman. She could have kept the good news about Elisha to herself, but instead she spoke up and helped him meet the one true God who can heal diseases. Even though you may think you're just a kid, God is shaping you and using you to help the people around you. We can know from this story that God promises to work in our lives.
So you can see through that story that God was with that young girl just to make that small step to tell that great man about what God could do for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then an amazing miracle even happened.
You know, that Bible story really helped me. Now I can trust that God is going to be with me when I go visit her in the hospital. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
Yole, 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 hoo, yole, 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 hoo, yole, 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 hoo, yole, yole, yole. Yole, yole, yolo, yolo, yole, yole, yolo, yolo, yole, yole, yolo, yolo, yole, yole, yole. Yole, 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 hee-hoo, yole, 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 hee-hoo, yole, 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 hee-hoo, hee-hoo.
Hey C3 kids, thanks for joining us for this week's episode of Snowed In. We really hope that you enjoyed hearing about the story of Naaman and how he got healed from leprosy. We hope you tune in next week to hear more about God's promises.
There's no way like God's way.
God sent his son, he's the savior of the world, and now we can call him friend. God sent his son, he's the savior of the world, and now we can call him friend. Jesus Savior, Jesus Savior, we will tell everyone. Jesus Savior, Jesus Savior, he's the Savior of the world, Savior of the world. God sent his son, he's the savior of the world, and now we can call him friend. God sent his son, he's the savior of the world, and now we can call him friend.